From your perspective, are we better off with a diplomatic solution with Iran, or any diplomatic solution will by definition fall short, and a military strike is really the only good option on the table?
The Iranians are not even willing to negotiate the things that are crucial for us. I'm not talking about the ballistic missiles. Of course, the best scenario is the US-led attack, but we need the US to move faster and understand that things are very, very sensitive, and at any given moment, something can happen.
Are the drums of war sounding louder? When is the attack going to finally happen on Iran? That question we are all waiting to hear an answer. Let's listen to General Amir Avivi as he shares with us on the ground in real time of when he thinks the attack is going to happen.
War with Iran is imminent, so I'd be very curious to hear, based on the latest intel, what is your most honest timeline now for that war? Is it days, weeks, months, years? What are we looking at?
It's very hard to predict exactly when it will start, but I think still it's imminent. At the end of the day, we see now Netanyahu, instead of flying 2 weeks from now to the US, is going to be Wednesday in a meeting with the president. It means that Israel is seeing that things are happening, and Israel, views the Iranians as very dangerous and wanting revenge and preparing their ballistic missiles. The next commander of the Air Force is flying with the Prime Minister, so the fact that the next Air Force commander will be there also, I think, indicates that this is not just a talk about the negotiations and whether to insist on dismantling the ballistic missile capabilities and stopping the funding of the proxies. It's obvious that we are talking about military stuff, about what we understand is happening in Iran, about the preparations looking at the ballistic missiles. So I think the military part, looking at the meeting with the president, is going to be very, very meaningful.
And is there one red line from Iran that if they crossed, Israel or the US would say, that's it, we must strike now?
I think the main issue is seeing Iran preparing to launch ballistic missiles. I think they can do pretty fast. I mean, we hit with the US pretty hard their nuclear sites. Yes, they're trying to renew these nuclear sites, but this takes time, and enriching uranium and trying to rebuild the bomb, this takes time. But they managed to really rebuild again their industry in the ballistic missiles, and this is a huge problem. We have to understand that at any given moment they might retaliate and shoot. It's not something we can afford.
And from your perspective, are we better off with a diplomatic solution with Iran, or any diplomatic solution will by definition fall short, and a military strike is really the only good option on the table?
The Iranians are not even willing to negotiate the things that are crucial for us. I'm not talking about the ballistic missiles. They're not talking about funding the proxies. And even when they talk about the nuclear issues, are saying we're not going to stop enrichment. So what are we talking here? I mean, they're not giving up any of the crucial capabilities. And for us, their massive production of ballistic missiles, and by the way, ballistic missiles that are much more advanced than the ones they shot in the last war. This is something existential for us. We cannot agree to it, and they're not even negotiating about that. So this Israel leaves Israel with no option but to deal with this. Of course, the best scenario is the US-led attack, but we need the US to move faster and understand that things are very, very sensitive, and at any given moment, something can happen.
I want to go back to something you just said. You're saying that since the last war with Iran, Iran has developed more advanced technology in terms of their ballistic missiles?
Yes, they have enhanced the capabilities of their ballistic missiles, missiles that are more lethal, more accurate, um, and also they work on the range. And this might challenge us. If they shoot a massive amount of missiles, of course, Israel also enhanced their air defense capabilities. But still, it's a very, very, very bad scenario where they overwhelm us with a preemptive attack. And Israel understands that. This is why uh, the Prime Minister is flying to the US urgently and talking to President Trump. This is part of the understanding that this is an option and we need to be prepared and we might need to retaliate even before the US is ready.
So Iran has more advanced offensive capabilities than they had the last time around. But can you speak to their air defense? Right, in the last round of the war, Israel took out the Iranian air defense. Is that still the case, or have they rebuilt that as well?
They rebuilt partially. They're working around the clock, trying to produce, trying to procure from Russia, from China. They're working relentlessly. I mean, you would have expected that following the 12-day war and the superiority of Israel and the fact that the U.S. attacked and the U.S. took responsibility for making sure that they don't rebuild themselves, that they won't come down, they would wait, they would say, let's wait a few years until there is another president and another prime minister in Israel. But they're not doing that. They're doing exactly the opposite. They're rebuilding very fast their capabilities. They're full of motivation to have a revenge. They feel humiliated. They believe that if they attack Israel, they will gain back respectability internationally and also inside Iran. And they're really behaving in a way that might say doesn't make a lot of sense.
General, in the last round of the war, we saw certain countries surrounding Israel and Iran cooperating with Israel in terms of allowing Israel to access their airspace. Would we see such cooperation again this time?
Yeah, definitely. I think that the U.S., as it's preparing for its potential attack, they're also building a coalition, coordinating with all the countries. You have to remember, it's all coordinated through CENTCOM. All the Arab countries that are in coalition with the U.S. work through CENTCOM, and the coordination is very, very close.
Are you able to give us a little insight about Saudi Arabia, what their position is on a U.S. or Israel attack on Iran right now?
So the Saudis are very careful. In closed meetings, they're saying this regime needs to fall, there needs to be an attack and so on. But the media and formally, they're against the war, they're against an attack. They don't want to get in trouble with the Iranians or the Chinese or the Russians for that matter. So they're very, very careful, but I'm pretty sure that they will be very happy to see this regime falling.
General, in the past, when Prime Minister Netanyahu has gone to meet with President Trump, there's been this public perception of disagreement and disconnect and distance between the two leaders. And the next thing we know, there is extreme coordination between the governments and the militaries. And this public perception is very different than what's actually happening behind closed doors. Do you have any insight on whether that'll happen this time around as well?
I think that we are very coordinated. I think President Trump listens very, very carefully to what Prime Minister Netanyahu has to say, and he also respects our interest and our needs. At the end of the day, it's Israel that is within the range of ballistic missiles of Iran, not the US. We're under danger. And Israel always needs to do what's best for Israel. And I think that the mission of the Prime Minister is really to convey what we need, what are our interests, what are the dangers. The main problem is we don't operate along the same timelines. The US is a big country. Every decision and every action takes time, and there is a process, and it's slow, and reality is not always at the same pace. And therefore, we're following very closely what's going on with Iran and whether we need to intervene before the US is ready. I think the Prime Minister said it a few times in the last few weeks. US needs to do what the US needs to do. Israel needs to do what Israel needs to do. It's not necessarily exactly the same timeline, but it's definitely mostly the same interests. We understand how evil this regime is. We understand this regime needs to go. We understand the massacre that they did against their own people and the danger they pose to the region and globally. But how to do it, when to do it, what's the timeline? This is a different issue that needs to be discussed in Washington.
General, let's switch topics if we can. There was big news in Israel yesterday. The Security Cabinet announced that there would be expanded Israeli oversight over areas in Judea and Samaria and Hebron. Are you able to explain what exactly they decided and how that affects security?
Well, the laws in Judea and Samaria that existed were the Jordanian laws that were anti-Semitic and against Israel, and basically said that Jews cannot buy land in their own homeland. And finally, they revoked this law. Now also publish the available land that people can buy, and they transfer the management of areas to some to Kogat, some to the regional councils. So definitely this is a very big step towards being much more sovereign in our own country. And I really commend the government. It's a very good decision. And will enable us to expand a lot our towns and the cities in Judea and Samaria.
Thank you so much for sharing with us the insights coming from a general, from a military perspective. We are always challenged when you have a political position and you have a military position. From a political perspective, politically, diplomacy, we want to do everything we can to exhaust the potential of having a resolution which is less than lethal, than military. But that works when you're dealing with someone that you can trust to sit around the table and have negotiations. Iran has proved themselves over and over again that there's absolutely no way that they're going to be a partner in peace with us. It truly leaves us with no option. As the general was sharing with us his thoughts, the Iranian government, as it is now, is as an existential threat, not just to Israel, but to the world, to worldwide democracy, and to the whole West. It is their radical, jihadist, idealistic belief that they want to rule the world. And that is why it is their mission, in their mission statement, to annihilate Israel. Because Israel is protecting the world from the spread of this radical Islam, of as what's known as the Arab Caliphate. We have been around the block several times with Iran since the revolution. There's been several anti-revolutions, protests that was failed because the government shut them down right away. in this most recent counter-revolutionary protests, where thousands of Iranians came out in the streets shouting, begging for regime change, only to be met by automatic gunfire. 36,000 and more were just slaughtered in the last 3 weeks on the streets of Iran by its own government. What government uses automatic weapons to shoot and kill its own citizens that they're supposed to have been sworn to serve and protect? But that is the axis of evil that we are dealing with. In the past 7 decades, the world has been terrorized by the jihadist, radicalized Islamists in the name of their religion, terrorizing the world, whether it's plane hijackings or suicide bombers, blowing up buses, blowing up pizzerias, attacking throughout the world. This type of murder, bloody barbarism, has no place in the 21st century. They are still stuck in the 6th, 7th century. We have progressed, we have moved forward. They cannot terrorize the world any longer. We cannot allow the bully regime to terrorize the world any longer. We have the ways, we have the means, we have the cause to finally bring an end to this. It is a little concerning when you hear from the general as he reflects that Iran is rearming itself at warp speed. They are making their ballistic missiles to be more precise and more lethal, which is of great concern. They are trying to rebuild their defense in no time. And we know, as we have heard, that since the last war, they are rearming stronger and harder. And that's going to become much more of a challenge for us. So this is a war that seems to be ramping up. The drums of war are getting louder and louder. We're not sure when this is going to happen. The Prime Minister of Israel just came to Washington, met with the president. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors. But one thing we do know is what goes on behind our closed doors. We, as the people of the world, can no longer remain silent. We need to have a voice and an opinion. And moreover, we need to have a prayer to God. We're living in very precarious times. No one knows what the outcome is going to be. We are all have been waiting for an organic counter-revolution movement that the Iranians, there are 90 million Iranian citizens, that they organically will topple the government. But they have no arms. It's the voices against arms, live arms. So there's no level of possibility that they could topple the government without arms. And that's where they need us. Our president told the Iranian people that help is on the way. He was sincere about it, and everyone is guaranteeing that our president, when he says something, he'll follow through. It just needs to be done in the right time, the right moment, and with the most success to victory. So during these times, the war is looming over. We're praying and hoping this would be the last war. Let's pray and we hope that this can happen quickly. Similar to what happened in Venezuela, we're able to neutralize a lethal situation there very quickly. Let's pray and we hope that that could happen here as well, with minimal amount of losses and victory for the 90 million Iranians, that they could finally be freed. Their religious rights can be restored, their human rights can be restored, and just imagine what the Middle East would look like when Iran and Israel are once again allies. Iran and America are allies once again, because we are there for the people of Iran. This past summer, in August, the regime announced that there's a water shortage in Iran. The wells are running dry, their dams are running dry, and there's a major water drought looming over Iran. Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu sent a video message to all the citizens of Iran, and he opened up saying, to my dear friends, the citizens of Iran, we know you are not our enemies. We love you and we care about you, and your suffering will not last much longer. And he told him, we know you're going through a drought. We in Israel have developed the cutting edge in water recycling and water desalination plants to turn seawater into drinking water. We are ready with our engineers to be dispatched to every one of your cities to help you with your water problem. This is Israel. This is who we are. We look at our enemy, not the people as our enemy, the regime as an enemy, offering help when they are swearing to annihilate us. And that is because God gave us this mandate 3,337 years ago, when God said to the Jewish people, to the Israelites, we want you to be a light unto the nations. And we have done that. And we have suffered tremendously by being the light unto the nations, by being God's ambassador to teach the Bible, to teach the Torah, to teach the Ten Commandments to the world, to bring law and order, morals, codes, ethics to the world. We were ridiculed. We were murdered. We were tortured. We were displaced from just about every country, because we were trying to do what our mandate was, to be a light unto the world. For the last 77 years, since 1948, Israel has been able to be just that. Israel has transformed a deserted, desolate land in the middle of the desert that has been neglected for 2,000 years, turned it into a superpower, flourishing, civilized country with 9 million people living in peace. Those 9 million people, 2 million of them are Arabs, that Israel cares for their security and their provisions. And Israel has accomplished, with the innovations and the inventions in the last 77 years, more than any country can bolster. The amount of Nobel Prize winners that comes out of Israel compared to any of its neighboring countries. Any innovation that Israel has brought to the world in all areas of humanity, agriculture, education, travel, communication, medicine, technology, computer science, academics, art, you name it, Israel's at the cutting edge. The world is focused on Israel for waiting for the next innovation and inventions. And Israel is doing this all for the world. We don't ask what the world can do for us, but what can we do for the world? The only thing Israel asks, let us do our thing. Let us live in peace. Give us secure borders. And we reach out to all of our neighbors to come in peace. The Abraham Accords has shown that those Arab nations that have joined the Abraham Accords are already benefiting tremendous for their citizens, more than they could have imagined. Let's hope, if we can end this very quickly, let this regime leave and a new democracy gets restored in Iran. As the Crown Prince said, the very first thing he will do is to restore the diplomatic ties with Israel and the United States of America. Iran will no longer be a state sponsor of terrorism, not to the Houthis, not to Hezbollah, not to Hamas, not to anywhere. It will become like Iran and Persia was once before, a superpower in the Middle East, providing for its own citizens and all of its neighbors in peace. God bless you. God loves you.